In some corners of the world, outlaw motorcycle gangs are seen as the fastest growing organised crime menace.
Motorcycle gangs originated here about 52 years ago, and they're the only organised crime that I'm familiar with that we're exporting from this country.
In Australia, blood in the streets has pushed the gangs and law and order up the political agenda.
Primitive tribalism is about all you could ever say of it.
You look scary. Are you scary?
Nah, mate. I mean, like, no, I'm not. Once people get to know me, I'm a pretty down-to-earth person. Yeah. I mean, looks ain't everything, eh? You know what I mean?
The outlaw motorcycle clubs are growing, but how big, bad and rich are they?
We had all these things that they reckon we have, like money. Well, I wouldn't mind seeing some of it, you know. I'm 47 years old, I own a bike and a car. That's not a lot to have.
But Alex Vella, president of the Rebels, does have a lot.
Cheers.
4 years ago, police seized an estimated $3 million of property from Vella, who in this program speaks publicly for the first time.
Are you a rich man?
Well, I don't know what you call rich. I mean, I done pretty well.
Everybody up here, you're going to get told what's happening on the road.
The Rebels is Australia's biggest outlaw club. They are about to take one of the world's biggest rides.
How many going?
I couldn't really tell you the numbers. It'd be hard for me to put a figure on that till we're halfway down the highway and see as they all start to join us in, but that's roughly about all it's about. This is just the final organisation to tip everyone to stay alive, and the best way to do that is listen to what we tell you, ride where we tell you, and there won't be no headaches.
And Rebels from all over Australia?
Everywhere.
Hey, come on.
All right?
So compulsory?
Yeah. Must go in here now, boys. Sorry.
This year's run to Melbourne will draw most of an estimated 600 membership from across Australia. The only exemptions are those in hospital or those in jail.
Some of the guys that I know come from broken homes, you know. Sometimes the club's the only family they got, you know. Others just like it for the same reasons that I do, for the brotherhood, for the camaraderie, for the going out on the runs, for the getting on the piss, and that's about it, really.
Well, for me, the club comes first, and my family a good second, you know. But on the same par, so to speak, you know. Like if I have to go away on a run somewhere, I go away on a run. That's all there is to it, you know.
Rebels, the best.
I would trust a brother before I'd trust a judge, most certainly. And that would be with my children, you know, my lady, my money, with anything, you know. And that's not putting judges down, but I trust my brothers, yeah.
The outlaw biker family was born in the United States in the late 40s. This Marlon Brando movie, The Wild One, was inspired by an actual incident.
Help this man out! Hey!
When a band of renegade ex-servicemen on bikes tore up the little town of Hollister, civil order was outraged.
Help the man out!
But instead of banishing the bikers, an outlaw subculture was born. Hollister now stages regular reunions. When authorities branded the bikers a 1% outlaw minority, they wore the insult with pride.
We'll treasure it, and we always will, because, as I said, who said they were bad? So if those people wanted to think that they were bad, stiff shit. Okay, we're bad, and we're proud of it.
My version is the other 99 don't count, you know. We're the 1%. we sort of really don't care about what other people think, you know. It's not about philosophy, you know. If you go worrying about what people think all the time, my God.
As you say, you're a rebel, and the rebels are an outlaw club. You call yourself an outlaw. Don't you bring a lot of it on yourself?
Well, let me say that the outlaw part only came from the police. It was them who gave us that name. You know,
it's not a name you've rejected.
Well, it's a name that it sticks.
The Hells Angels started with one chapter here. Now the world map of the multinational Hells Angels and the many other outlaw clubs modelled on them looks like this. As the movement has spread across the world, so too has the violence. In Scandinavia, rival gangs have taken to one another with rocket launchers.
Here it tends to be violent crime. Violent crime that would be involved in extortion, prostitution, beatings, robberies, rapes. And then you have economic crime, where they're involved in stealing motorcycles, title fraud for those vehicles, export fraud. But principally, their biggest moneymaker is drugs.
The course the outlaw motorcycle movement has taken encompasses two opposing arguments. One is they have become more organised and criminalised. The other is they are becoming more socialised and civilised. The notion that Australian bikers chose the former course and became latter-day highwaymen was reinforced by one sharp fusillade of violence back in 1984. A swap meet at an outer Sydney suburb turned into a gunfight between the Comancheros and the Bandidos. A split between the two clubs had led to taunts, threats, and ultimately a declaration of war that might have seemed like a game until the smoke cleared on 7 dead bodies.
I'd say there was at least 12, 13 shots while I was making my way to the pub. People dived under cars. People just ran into the pub, people just went straight for the floor, people went everywhere.
Making sense of the violence is no easier now than 15 years ago.
There's another bloke, Daily Telegraph. They seem to appear out of the woodwork. And he's wandering along the back fence. This is after the gunfight had stopped. And the police had turned up and the ambos had got in. And he said, "Did anyone see anything?" Shock horror, holding a small notepad. Did anyone see anything? And everyone says, no. And one bloke says, "I saw lots." And the Telegraph bloke goes, "Oh, lots of what?" And he says, "Lots of rust on the bottom of my ute."
While the bikers are inclined to dismiss the violence as tribal, law enforcement tends to a different view. In 1995, the National Crime Authority launched Operation Panzer, an investigation of the Australian organised crime profile of the outlaws.
There are local features, there are local characteristics, and certainly I think the Australian scene in relation to motorcycle gangs is the same as it is with a lot of other areas of crime, and that is we don't necessarily transplant to Australia mirror images of crime activity overseas. We're quite capable of growing our own homegrown version.
To brand a motorcycle club outlaw is a form of McCarthyism. It's irrational and it's assertive. To jump one step further and to suggest that membership of an outlaw motorcycle club allows a reasonable person to infer criminality or organised criminality by virtue of membership is farcical.
So far on the road to Melbourne, the rebels have shown themselves to be well organised, more in the sense of an accustomed order and discipline to their ride.
Oh, they're sharp cameras.
Yeah, it's a good thing, mate. Yeah. Hey, it's got 32 zoom. We'll go and pick that cop car easy, right?
All the way, the police maintain a watching brief, while the bikers watch back.
Law-abiding citizens here.
Across in Western Australia, the watching brief is far more aggressive. They watch the Melbourne-bound rebels from the west all the way to the South Australian border.
So it's getting late in the afternoon. And here's this one cop, he's standing there with a stop sign, a lollipop, like this, saying stop. Well, I've slowed down. As I've slowed down, I've looked over to my left, and here's the other cop sitting on the bonnet of the car with a video camera. They wanted me to slow right down so they could get a good shot. In the middle of nowhere. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
There's no denying the bikers have given police cause to watch them closely in WA. A battle over the last year between the coffin cheaters and the club Deros has seen bashings, woundings and one killing. Biker violence is usually contained within their own community, but here it has spilled onto the streets, provoking a police zero-tolerance response. Although the rebels were not a party to the violence, West Australia Police partly blame an upset to the balance of power on their arrival from the east.
We've had basically 4 clubs operating in this state for around 20 years, or in excess of 20 years, and they've kept, if you like, others out.
We are a bit concerned with the infiltration of a new group, the rebels, in Western Australia, and we are receiving intelligence that the rebels seem to be establishing at least a casual link between the coffin cheaters and the Rebels Club itself. The Deros are now aligning themselves to another club, the Gypsy Jokers, in this state. So to a certain extent, there is some suggestion that the Bikie groups are amalgamating.
So why are you expanding into Western Australia?
The reason why is because we had people that come from there, wanted to join our club. So the other way to do is you take your show over there.
There's no takeover or anything like that. It really irks me. I just like to wonder where, this all stems from, where they get this from, They're just clutching at straws, people are clutching at straws.
What about the coffin cheaters? Is there any kind of formal alliance with the coffin cheaters?
No, we've got no alliance with the coffin cheaters at all. We see them from time to time. I know a few of them personally, actually, and they're good guys. We get on okay with them,
In Australia, there has been a rationalisation of clubs. The rebels growing the largest and fastest, absorbing smaller clubs in the process. There are now 63 rebels chapters across Australia. They call it natural selection, normal market forces at work.
Smaller clubs have joined us. You don't get anywhere, with taking people over. If they want to join, they join.
When they join, do you take control of their assets?
No, they keep control of their own assets.
Is there any plan, a takeover plan?
Never has been, and I don't think there ever will be. I think it's something that the police had made up.
Police are inclined to a more sinister view. Some believe a meeting occurred in the mid-90s between the major clubs, planning that by 2000, only 6 would survive.
And that's the pattern, that's the trend. Our bigger gangs are taking over smaller gangs. And then the bigger gangs are uniting against what they view as their only common enemy, which is law enforcement.
So was there ever a meeting between club presidents to plan such a strategy?
Well, if there was, I only can speak for myself. I was not in it.
In Western Australia, police are taking no chances.
And then they came charging in here, guns blazing.
What do you mean, guns blazing?
They were firing live rounds, but it was some sort of incendiary device they were firing.
At the Rebels Malaga clubhouse, following a minor skirmish at the gate, the rebels discovered what zero-tolerance policing is all about.
Oh, we saw the whole thing. We can see the whole thing from the monitor. We've got camera security, and we were watching it for hours. Yeah, they were out there for hours amassing,
The tactical response group, weapons bristling, was called in. What did they find? I mean,
they found nothing. All they ended up doing was taking took the alcohol fridges, 2 fridges similar to this.
The Biker Task Force has, over the past year, confiscated weapons, drugs and money, more particularly from other clubs, but not this time.
They were telling us that we had a gun in here, and I don't know where they got that idea from. I just said to them, I said, no, there's no weapons here. And even if we did have a weapon, as if we'd be silly enough to fire it off at, so many police.
This raid netted for the police a not entirely lethal cargo of alcohol, soft drink and pork rind.
Oh, they've been harassing us pretty well full on for about 6 months now. Every time we're here, they'll come down, they do all sorts of stupid things like sit there with their lights on high beam just pointing at us while we're outside and driving around playing loud music, bad boys. I don't know who they reckon the bad boys are. Maybe they reckon they're the bad boys.
The limited results has coincided with a call for an increase in powers to attack their assets, their alleged racketeering and code of silence.
With all the best information in the world, you can't necessarily be able to deal with a group that is so secretive, that simply does not talk outside itself, yet all the evidence collected over a long period of time points to strong implications of criminal behaviour.
Just let me try this. It's not obviously going to look as good, but, just poking your butt out.
That looks great.
Does look all right?
At one level, the bikers do appear secretive. At another, you wonder if there's anything left to hide. The Outlaw Bikers Bible, the magazine Live to Ride, is an open account of the life of the outlaw and an effective recruitment aid. Their devotion to their art, the human form, revelry and indoor plants is on regular public display.
What do you reckon, Sandy? Picture book? Picture book.
The mag, we set it up. No, the only specifics we do is smiling faces, happy stuff, or look mean. Look mean's a good one. Anyone can look mean, but they look like they're looking mean.
It's not hard to see why bikers and police are not best friends. The bikers are highly visible targets in open defiance of the law.
There's no honour among thieves. There's no honour among bike gangs.
The cops pay you a lot of attention. Does that bother you?
Only if I've got something to hide.
What do you mean by that?
Like if I've got outstanding warrants or anything like that, I get a little bit nervous around them.
There's crime everywhere. They've coined blue collar and white collar and God knows what we are. I don't wear a collar.
We've got our own values that we stick by. We're not really too greatly concerned about other people's values. We just sit back and look at them. It's not all, straight down. We're straight down the line with each other, and we have to be.
The rebels, like all outlaw clubs, have their own constitution, economy, geography, hierarchy and rules.
The last thing you want is to have people that are there for the wrong reason.
Who want to use the club, use the name of the club in vain.
Yeah, that's the worst taboo.
How do you deal with people like that?
I couldn't tell you that.
We don't tell on each other for nothing, like we don't make statements, we don't sign statements, we don't say nothing.
On a ride up front in the order is the president, Alex Vella. Behind him are the other office bearers, including the sergeant-at-arms, alongside all the full members wearing the rebels' colours. Behind them are the noms, the nominees or prospective members. At the rear are the hang-arounds and the crash trucks.
All right? So you got to take the Yass turn off. Canberra. All right? So we did a quick turn.
At Yass, west of Canberra, the rebels converged, collected and paused.
It's looking pretty good when I look in the mirrors from up front there. I'm about 6-1 back up front. All I can see is a nice trail riding along smooth, so everything's pretty good.
What's the point of the ride?
Meeting each other, having a good time. We got to run to Melbourne. We've got a bike show there. We'll go for a couple of days. We'll have a good time, mate. That's what it's all about.
So no trouble?
There'll be no trouble. We'll keep it in order, just like the law does.
Alex Vella, a former light heavyweight boxing champion, has attracted more than casual interest from police.
It turned out, I think, to be one of the biggest raids in Australian legal history.
In 1995, the New South Wales Crime Commission raided Vella's property, freezing an estimated $3 million in assets.
It was the worst day of my life. They finished take 41 Harleys and 8 cars altogether. But a couple of them, they weren't mine. And I had to prove back to them from my first job when I was 8 years old, earning a couple of shillings a day.
It is a form of witch hunt. It's designed to debilitate the person being investigated. It is not simply a question of providing powers to assist in an investigation. It's a system which involves effectively the debilitation of the person being investigated.
Reversing the normal principle of presumption of innocence, Vella has been obliged to explain the wealth. Successfully, it seems. Last week, his property was returned, noticeably the worse for wear.
That was my first Harley I owned there. All the spokes are rusted. A lot of the keys from the ignitions aren't even there. And there's a lot of work to be done. I can assure you that much. They've been sitting for 4 years, you know.
While unpaid taxes are being recovered, the Crime Commission was not able to make its case that they'd recovered the wages of serious sin.
They have never proved that, and they can't prove that, because I got evidence how I got loans from people and banks to prove how I made my money.
There is no suggestion, no admission that drug trafficking was involved. We've demonstrated exactly where his wealth has come from.
Alex Vella and his rebels are, according to their rights, a club, not a gang. Some bike clubs might still tear up country towns, but the rebels, they say, are not like other bike clubs. And times have changed.
People are quite surprised. I'm an anaesthetic technician. I'm a nurse, for crying out loud, you know?
Well, I mean, it's not a poor man's sport anymore. And it sort of shows, I think. The outlaws don't seem to wear grotty old clothes held together by gravity. The dirty bikie doesn't apply anymore. They're sort of polished and they got expensive boots and stuff like that. I mean, things have changed somewhat dramatically.
As motorcyclists are at pains to point out, there are many differences between the clubs and themselves, the so-called bikies and bikers.
You put it on the frame.
The Mount White Cafe north of Sydney has been a biker hangout for decades.
I really enjoy the bikers here. You look out the window, they're always laughing and talking and joking, and then you get your carloads of tourists going through with children, especially in the school holidays, and you've got cranky people. Everyone's upset, the children are crying, mum's not happy, but my bikers are always smiling.
We've had one fight here, it was up on the green up here over a girl, naturally, over a woman, and not one punch was landed up here, and about 2 minutes later they all came down and thoroughly exhausted and apologised. So that's the only time I've ever had any bad vibes
About
here.
2 weeks when we were first in.
Yeah,
2 weeks,
yeah.
yeah.
And it's just good vibes up here, there's no hassles.
I better get off it. Balance it.
For the outlaws, the tattoos, the colours, the jewellery are style accessories. But the most prominent feature of the uniform is the bike itself. And not just any bike. To belong to an outlaw club, you must likely own a large American Harley-Davidson motorcycle.
What's the most likely accident a Harley rider can have? It's running up the arse of the car in front of him because he's looking at himself in the shop window.
I like drag racing Harleys. My aim is to fetch the 200 mile an hour mark at 6 seconds. That's my aim in life with Harley Davidsons.
I mean, I love women, don't get me wrong, but I love my Harley Davidson too, you know. But I love the bike. Doesn't bat chat for me, but I do love women, believe me. So.
The very pulse of the outlaw is the primal thump of the Harley. Not for them these shrieking, whining Japanese toys, nor their candy-coloured finery. It may well be that the most conspicuous conflict in the motorcycle world is less about drugs than fashion.
It's the image, that's all it is. I mean, we're just like, we like speed and stuff like that. They tend to like the Harley, like the Eagles and the heavy look, you know. They want to scare people more, you know.
Back on the road to Melbourne, it's now mid-afternoon, and at the Wamagama pub there are scary-looking bikers drinking light beer and lemonade.
You know, you've got to give a good image in that, you know. You don't want someone getting around off the arse out their pants, do you?
It's now just a short run to Albury, where the rebels will camp for the night.
6:15, we'll leave.
To travel across the country, which we've done a couple of times with the boys now, all the way across, the people you meet, the smiles, it's instant relaxation. You pull up and you got your mates there. You know, you got something to laugh about, you know.
That's where you really get to know each other, you know, is when you go away on a run, you know, because you pull up at night, you start a hotel or whatever. Years ago, we used to sleep in the bush, out camping, you know. I've had my days in the bush, you know, getting a bit old, been lying around on the grass now.
But you're not going soft or anything?
No, we're not going soft. Soft's got nothing to do with it, I don't think. I think it's comfortable's more word, not soft.
When I worked these gangs undercover, they partied every night I was around them. Now, they didn't always spend $2,000, but when you start buying cocaine, you're buying drinks, you're at a strip club, you're tipping heavily. When they had no money, they were like bumming cigarettes. That's the lifestyle.
In Albury, the bikers' high life reaches no further than the local railway hotel, the Termo.
Good to see a few members of the Rebels Motorcycle Club here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And actually, I'm sure there's some Black Newlands in the crowd as well, isn't there?
And as it turns out, they've wandered into the territory of another club.
Well, I am a motorcycle man, ride a metal steed. Answer to nobody, over the road is all I need.
But the pub favoured by the local Black Newlands accommodates all without trouble.
It is my brother.
The arrival of 200 men in town has attracted some interest from the opposite sex, something Four Corners noticed 30 years ago when we last visited the subject.
They're grass blokes. They treat you well. If you, like I say, if you're a mole, they'll treat you like one. If you're not, they'll treat you a real grouse. They will.
Somebody was saying that there's some guys that give you a bad time. Is this true?
Only if you're a mole.
What's a mole?
Oh, you know.
No, can you tell me?
A girl that'll go with anyone, you know?
Right. Are there many like that?
Yeah, a few.
But you're not.
I don't think I am. I enjoy myself. I go with Well, I come here, I'm not going with anyone at the moment, but I go home with a couple of blokes different nights, but I don't class myself as a mole.
I'm the meanest man alive. I'm a motorcycle man.
A self-image of being attractive to women sits uneasily alongside a history of misogyny. What about women? Can they join?
No.
Why not?
It's a man's club.
How do you think you treat women?
With respect.
You don't go near someone else's woman for a start off. You know, that is a big thing in the club. You know, you just don't do that. You know.
You mean the male dominance? Yeah, that's normal. I mean, that's been going on since we swung out at trees until somebody decided not to do it anymore. That doesn't mean violence or enforced obedience. It's just the lady involved in the relationship not so much knows the place, but that's the accepted norm of behaviour, so to speak. I don't yell at him in the pub when his mates are around, yell at him at home.
Are you an equal partner?
Personal
The
life.
relationship and...
Yes, we are.
Outside the house, I still treat Ricky as my equal partner. When it comes to the club, I'm usually off on my own anyway, so it doesn't sort of come into it.
And you trust him when he's off on his own?
100%. Very much. Yeah.
You deserve that trust, do you?
I certainly do. Yeah, I certainly do. Why would I go mucking up on a deal like this?
Yeah.
The morning sees the police maintaining their watching brief. On the following weekend in neighbouring towns, football clubs were trashing rooms and brawling. But here the rebels were not doing their reputation for being scary the slightest bit of good.
The police rang me about half an hour before they arrived and they said, you've got the rebel Bikie group coming in. And I said, no, I haven't. And next minute, I've just heard them coming and I was here by myself and I was shaking so much and everything, but they've been absolutely fantastic. I couldn't ask for better guests, except for the noise level, but they've been absolutely fantastic.
Wherever we go, we leave our good name. That means next time anyone comes, they can get back here again.
When the rebels cross into Victoria, it's not just the police who take notice. The growth of the rebels has rattled a lot of other clubs too.
It was a really good mind game played by A Club recently. They had a national rally for their whole club. Now, usually when we run ads and things and live to ride for bike shows, it says clubs by invitation only, or this one said all Outlaw clubs invited to the national rally. And I know a couple of people in other clubs have gone, they're cheeky bastards, aren't they? Well, that's a mind game.
What is the game? What's the point?
Well, the game is that half the clubs they'd invite to their party don't particularly like them this week. Their shares aren't selling well on the market, in the other club's opinion. So they invite the whole lot.
So that was a kind of a statement that said, we're not frightened of anybody.
No. If people that misconceive it that way, well, they're absolutely wrong.
Hey, let me say this. A lot of people came. They didn't have their colours, but they were there. So I suppose they've done a good thing. We made money off him too.
Come on, boys! Everybody, saddle up!
As the rebels neared Melbourne, they were attracting more unwanted publicity.
All right, boys, let's go.
The Victorian media drew attention to the last time the club made the news back in Sydney. A shootout at the Black Market nightclub saw 3 bandidos dead. Among those charged with the killing was a member of the rebels.
I know nothing about it, and they tried to question me about it, but I can't speak for something I don't know about.
So I was saying we're all shining little stars. We're an outlaw motorcycle club, and that's what it says, you know. If anyone gets into trouble in the club, he does so as an individual.
Who is responsible for the killing of the 3 bandidos is yet to be determined by a court.
As a president, do you take responsibility for the actions of your members?
I only take responsibility when I'm there. If I'm there and they do wrong, I can pull them out and straighten things up. It's like a family with a bunch of kids. How can you be responsible for your kids if you're not there?
But this biker's funeral, one of many, is living proof of the violence within the outlaw community. When the clubs do fight, they say it's more likely club or male honour at stake. Pirate lost his eye, standing by a mate, refusing to back down.
Of course, that's been my way long before I was in the club.
Do you like fighting?
No. No, and personally, and those that know me know my reasons. I'll never stand down, I'll never back down, never have. But the days of going looking for a fight ended when, long before my 21st birthday. Get yourself in too much trouble. I'd rather party.
The violence. I think it's just a stage further than a face-to-face disagreement about something which doesn't possibly seem exactly important on the day until punches are thrown and then face is lost and then it becomes a serious argument. Somebody gets shot, everybody forgets it.
Another reputation the bikers have trouble living down is their involvement in drug trafficking, particularly the production and distribution of amphetamines.
I have heard this a lot. There's not one man from my club has been charged with that. And I know nothing about it.
If individual members were doing a bit of business, would the club know about it?
No.
Nothing to do with the club.
Nothing to do with the club.
It's in our constitution. Anyone caught dabbling in heroin, dealing it, financing it, guilt by association, we call it, they'll be out of our club, like as fast as a wink. Gone.
There was one bloke I knew who, in a club, who took up living with a girl, a working girl, and she was supporting the smack habit, and his club had rules against smack. He was that close to her and the distribution and the drugs and the smack and etc. that club threw him out.
And he paid a penalty, say he lost his bike or something like that.
No, he got both collarbones broken.
It's midday Saturday by the time the rebels assemble at a roadhouse on the outskirts of Melbourne. A police escort will see them through to the big moment, the ride into the city.
Well, I am a motorcycle man. I ride a middle steed. I answer to nobody. Open road is all I need.
At first glance, it's a nightmare scenario. The stuff of law and order elections, an outlaw gang takes over our streets.
I think by and large our streets are safe. We have a community in which people can go about their business without difficulty. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be careful to ensure that we maintain that level and improve it if possible. What I think is important is to recognise that often the perceptions aren't quite the same as the reality. All of the evidence that I'm aware of suggests that Australian streets aren't any less safe than they were a decade ago.
The outlaw bikers do conform to a 19th century stereotype of the Ned Kelly-like crime gang. But it is a long time since the Kelly gang disturbed the peace in Victoria. The bikers approach a new millennium with a dramatically altered crime landscape. The old visible threats to our safety and well-being are being challenged by less visible crime. According to the Australian Institute of Criminology, white-collar crime is now near the top of the list of Australian public enemies.
I think what we're going to see into the next century is a substantial increase in what I would describe as electronic crime. I think the challenge we face and which the community faces, is preparing itself to deal with those issues, to deal with the removal of funds offshore because they're the proceeds of crime or because they're part of major tax evasion, because all of a sudden we no longer live and work in a nation state where our community alone can set the laws and the procedures to enable us to deal with the criminal problem.
That is not to say the outlaw bikers should not and will not continue to attract the attention of police, particularly state police. Settled in at their Melbourne chapter clubhouse after the long ride, the rebels have declared open house. The rest of the weekend is devoted to what they say they're all about, partying. Here we are, they say, the rebels in the raw.
I'll tell you straight, I don't care. I've got nothing, absolutely nothing to hide whatsoever. I went to jail for an armed hold-up, right? Okay. Fall over once, dirty for life. I made a mistake, whatever. Everyone makes mistakes. You know, it took a chunk out of my life. I was stupid, but whatever.
After most of 5 years looking at the Australian outlaw bikers, the National Crime Authority has seen evidence of cottage industry crime and some more serious criminals within their midst. But they found nothing to suggest the bikers are getting an appreciable share of Australia's $18 billion annual crime bill.
The average club members that I have seen are knockabout everyday people. I would think that the club composition, with the exception of have some extremities, would be much the same as any suburban group of people.
The NCA has not seen the evidence of high wealth that speaks of highly organised crime.
There isn't the kind of evidence that some people thought might be available of a national orchestrated approach by these gangs perhaps working in concert. So essentially we have a potential problem in terms of criminal behaviour, but not what we would see as an organised crime problem of the kind that we deal with in other areas.
And what we find is that Australian gangs, motorcycle gangs, tend to do what gangs do in the US. They might do it 3 months later or a couple of years later, but what you see here, you're going to get.
While the rebels have taken the Confederate flag and more, there are noticeable differences too.
Hose them down as they're standing on the ropes. What do you reckon, fellas? Make it interesting. That's it. In the face. Nice and gently, but in the face. Women love this shit.
If they are white supremacists, they manage to be so with a large multicultural membership, including Indigenous Australians. If the bikers want to preserve their own honour codes, there are challenges ahead. To get rid of the criminals in their midst while preserving their cherished bad name won't be easy.
Do you want to be respected?
I have got respect. I don't need to go on no TV or magazines to be respected. I got people who respect me all over the countries, not just in Australia, wherever I go.
And there are challenges for the enemy that define them too. The bikers are a good example of the many threats that are more perceived than actual.
No! Future rebel, mate, this bloke here.
Police could be given more powers to suppress the enemy, or better still, the skills to know who the real enemies are.
Well, I am a motorcycle man. I ride a middle seat.
sensible way. And what we are doing is implementing a range of programs to encourage and support renewable energy. A number of direct grant programs. We're establishing infrastructure for natural gas vehicles within Sydney, which we're going to extend to Melbourne. And if I had the time, Madam President, we could have a long debate on all the initiatives this government is introducing to support the renewable